Right. Yeah, we on now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Welcome to today's session. And we'll just move on as fast as possible and see how much we can maximize within the time we have. And I'll try to make today's class much more interactive and add a lot of perspective to it so that we can all understand what's going on. So let me get this. A few minutes so that I can share my screen. Documents. There. All right. Kindly confirm if you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Yeah, I can. I don't know
Okay,
about
great.
us.
All right. So today's session will be an interesting one, and hopefully we'll be able to cover a lot of things. And so our focus is majorly on CI/CD. Okay. And if we have ample time, we're going to use two tools, Jenkins and GitHub Actions. Now, one of my observation is majority of the people on the call are learners. They are still learning, right? So I'll try not to make any assumption, right? I'll just take it slow and steady and make it very, very interesting. So today's class will be more interactive based on what you all have done, what we've done on previous classes. All right. So from the outline, if you have access to the outline, you know that we are covering CI/CD. Okay, so I think, okay, let me show you something. Maybe I'll use that to, okay, I'll use that to get started with today's class. And right, so let me see, doc, Lucid. All right, I'll just use this thing I use for my company in some of the trainings I usually have. So this is some of the architecture I usually use. Because of time, I will not be able to sketch this thing from the ground. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm just going to just kick off with this. All right. Else, normally I would have just be sketching everything real time in front of you and be explaining, but let's just save time. Now, from what we've covered in the first session, which has to do with how to host a simple application, right? We moved on to learning how to Dockerize an application. Then we learned how we can scale a simple application, maybe using Docker Compose, right? Creating different services and the rest of them. Now, I know there's a lot of digging we're supposed to do, right? And for any one of you that doesn't have a base and you're just using this program to start up your DevOps journey, I really want to tell you there's a lot more foundations, right? And feel free to always ask questions. I'm surprised that each time I come after work, I come and check the Slack channel. I don't see any message. I'm like, okay, I think these guys are already experts. Everybody, they know what's up. So, but please feel free to ask questions, okay? Especially relating to what we are doing. So, in this CI/CD session, we want to understand what's really happening, or what do we mean by CI/CD. As a DevOps engineer, CI/CD is the bone of contention. In other words, a lot of time, right? Especially if you understand the transition of DevOps strategy, or what we call methodology, okay? The art of building software, what we call software development lifecycle, SDLC, right? Now, there are different ways we build softwares, okay? Now, when engineers build softwares, they follow those strategies or those procedures, okay, or methods. One of the popular methods out there is Agile. Another one used to be Waterfall, okay? DevOps is an improvement of the Agile method. You understand? So, but it's important for us to understand that one of the things that makes DevOps what it is, or one of the core principles behind DevOps is the principle of CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. We also have continuous deployment, right? That's CI/CD. Now, what you can see on the screen is an illustration, right? That is trying to buttress the entire DevOps life cycle, right? What happens from the code from the local machine to the customer. Now, let me try and explain this illustration, this analogy that we have here. Now, if you look carefully, right, you will see that we have developers or actors, right? Now, it could be anybody, okay? Now, this is what usually happen. An individual somewhere is writing code. This person could be in Japan, this person could be in Nigeria, this person could be in UK, and this person could be in Israel, right? All these people are working for a said company. Maybe if my Facebook is the name of the company, do you understand? Or the name of the company is dariadachiever.uk, and they are building a product called My Facebook. So these developers from different locations, they will write their source code, they will build their source code, they will develop a program, right? Which is a simple collection of statements or instructions, right? Now, they also write something we call unit tests or functional tests or integration tests. The most important thing is that they write the source code and they write tests, different kinds of tests, okay? But I just use unit test
Development
here, but
test,
there are
there's
different kinds of
integration test,
tests,
and there's
okay?
test test.
So then, like I said, there's so many kinds of tests one can do on a particular application, okay? Unit test, functional test, system test, integration test, and the rest of them, okay? So now, if you as a developer writes your code, you will be pushing that code to a repository, what we call a source code management tool. This is an illustration for a source code management tool. In this context, it could be GitHub, it could be GitLab, and it could be Bitbucket. There are so many other source code management tools. Even Azure DevOps does the same thing. Okay, so they are all what we call repository managers. Okay, not necessarily repository managers in this context, but why I said not necessarily is because there are some repository managers that are not designed for this. For example, Nexus, it's a repository manager, but it's not designed for source code management in the context of CI/CD. Okay, so for SCM or what we call version control tools, okay, these are the popular ones: GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Please, can you all hear me? I hope this is not overwhelming.
Not yet.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, individuals are going to push their code. Either they are writing a Python programming language, the source code can be Python, it could be Java, it could be JavaScript, or just HTML and CSS. Okay, so each person will be writing different components of the application. If it's Amazon, for instance, they'll be writing different components. It could be the login, it could be the dashboard, it could be the UI elements, it could be the footer. Different developers writing different components of the code and storing it here. Now, as a DevOps engineer, we set up something we call a CI server, okay, or what we can call a CI/CD server, okay. Now, this could be a dedicated computer. Now, this computer, it's going to act as an agent that will be doing a lot of things. Okay, so in this context, we're using Jenkins. Okay, it could be any other CI/CD tool. There's so many of them out there. There's Jenkins, there's Travis CI, there's GitLab, there's also Circle CI, there's GitHub Actions. Okay, I think this is it Octopus or something. There's so many of them out there. All right, so now, but like I said, it's designed for CI/CD. Okay, now this server, it could be a dedicated computer. You just configure that server. Once you install the right software, it will be used for what? CI/CD. I hope that makes sense. Now, that CI/CD server will be designed in a way such that it can pull the code that you stored on your GitHub down to your server. All right. Now, once it's pulled the code, one other thing the DevOps engineer will always want to do is to analyze that code that has been pulled from GitHub. You understand? You want to check the quality of the code. There are a lot of things we check. Code quality, code coverage, you understand? Checking the threshold, the quality, to know if this code reaches a certain threshold quality. Sometimes when you're working with a team lead in an organization, the senior manager usually have what we call a threshold. Okay, now when we say threshold, what we mean is the code quality can be 85%. 85% and above, the code is good for building, okay, or packaging. We can deploy that code. But if it is less than, we need to know whatever it is and fix it. But the good quality is from 80% and above. Now, if it's less than 5%, it's a bad code entirely. There's a lot of factors can be considered in terms of checking the quality. And one of the tools that can be used for analyzing the code, okay, that's code for code analysis, okay, is a tool called SonarQube or SonarCloud. All right. If you've ever heard about DevSecOps, okay, so this is the security aspect of it. Okay, you can use it to scan your code, to check the quality of the code, to check for things like code smell, okay, to check for code duplications, to check for what we call in terms of hacking, if your code is exposed, there's something we call it in a way such that when some hackers do penetration testing, some codes can be exploited. You understand? If there's a backdoor, or with the use of some payloads. I don't want to use a lot of big technical things so that I don't confuse anybody, but just know that there are a lot of ways we can scan our code that has been collected from GitHub. Okay, it can be done manually, it can be done automatically. One of the automatic tools, okay, what we call automated testing, okay, automated testing, manual testing, automated testing. One way we can do the automated testing is by using code tools like this. Some people call it static code analysis or dynamic code analysis, but I don't want to go into that. Just know that we have a tool called SonarQube, which will be used to analyze the quality or to scan the code, okay, to see if there's any thing that's not supposed to be there. If the code was poorly written, you understand? So now, if the code has reached that quality threshold, the next thing that we can do with this CI/CD server is we can build that code. Do you understand? In most cases, they build the code before they scan the code. Now, when we say building, what do we mean? It's called packaging, okay? Creating of artifacts, okay? You may have heard the word artifacts before, or you've never heard about it, but just know that there's something we call artifacts, okay? Artifacts, okay? Which is a file that has been generated when you build a code. Now, I'm using strong words for some of you that have not heard it before. And if you check here, you see build tools, you see Maven, you see Gradle, you see NPM. Now, what does this all mean? Remember that I told you that we have different projects here, okay? If you are working on a Java project, Okay, your developers are building with Java programming language. One of the popular build tools that are being used is called Maven. Sometimes they use Gradle. If you're using a JavaScript project like Node.js, you use NPM.
Mm.
Do you understand? If it's .NET, there are different kinds of build tools. Okay, so those tools will be used to package the code. Do you understand? Such that you can be able to store it. Okay, when we say store, it's like for versioning. You want to have version 1, version 2, version 3. You understand? If anything, if the code that maybe the developer makes a change and you push to the production and everything break, the company usually have where they store previous versions. Do you understand? And those kind of places is what we call artifact trees. Okay, after you're done building it, you store the artifacts. You understand? You will store those build code as artifacts. And we use tools like JFrog or Nexus. Okay, they are artifactory tools which we use to store our artifacts. All right. Now, when you're done, so this is actually what some people call delivery. Okay, delivery. Okay, so sometimes it could be in the UAT server, if you've ever heard about UAT server and the rest of them, or staging, those kind of environment. They just, if you don't want to use artifactories like this to store your artifacts, you can also store it on some UAT servers. Okay, now again, they move further, and when you are done storing it, right, you can choose to do a deployment, right? Deployment in the sense that with the help of that same CI/CD server, when you've collected the code, you've scanned it, you've built it, right? You want to deploy it somewhere. It could sometimes, some people configure the same server to be the deployment server, or they can use another server. Okay. Now, there are a lot of tools or technologies we can use for deployment. We could use Ansible, we could use Terraform, we could use Docker, we could use Kubernetes. Okay, so if we use Ansible, we will be able to spin up and configure some virtual machines or instances on AWS clouds. If we use Docker, we can be able to create some containers, or maybe some, if you connect Docker to ECS, what we call Amazon Elastic Container Service, you can create some ECS instances, right? You can also use Kubernetes to create, when you set up your Kubernetes, it will run as pods. Do you understand? Now, the most important thing is for you to know that in terms of deployment, there are a lot of tools we can use for deployment. Okay, it can be a simple EC2 instance. Okay, it could be Ansible. You can use Ansible to do it. You could use Docker. You could use any tool to want to do the, or you can just do from Jenkins directly to a virtual machine or an AWS EC2 instance. And once the deployment of that code is here, the customer can be able to access the code, the visual form of the code, okay, with the help of the public IP, or what we call URL or web address. I hope that makes sense. Now, please, do we understand what I've explained so far before I move on?
Okay, I have it. You made mention of the build tools, and I think you mentioned Maven and Gravel. I think these are two separate tools, right? The NPM, is it a tool as well?
Sorry, come again. What did you say?
Okay, you mentioned a couple of tools for building. You mentioned Maven, you mentioned Gravel, then you mentioned NPM. NPM, is it a tool?
Yes. We can call it what is it called? A build tool. In the sense that if you remember when we did something that has to do with Node.js, right? When we are doing some Node.js projects, right? So if we want to do some packaging, now there's something we call package registry, right? If you've ever gone to NPM registry, you see where a lot of developers has written some codes, right? Packaged it and pushed it to NPM, right? So just know that in terms of Node.js or JavaScript packages, NPM is one of those tools we can use to build
Okay.
Node.js projects. Yeah.
Okay, secondly, the tools you mentioned, is there like a one-off tool, like now, let's say Maven now. Maven can do both Python, like instead of like, do we now have to learn different tools? That's the point now. Like the Marvel, Gravel, or just
Okay.
one,
So
which is
the
used to.
idea behind this illustration, firstly, right, is to give us a big picture. Okay, right. Now there's a lot of things to learn in DevOps, right? Now, but the idea is not for you to be overwhelmed, and the goal is not for you to be jumping from one tool to another tool. Okay. The most important thing is this: if you know how to get a code from your source code management to the customer viewing it, and you set up an auto deployment, you're good to go, regardless of the tools. Now, of course, when you want to get a job, a lot of times companies will be asking for a lot of experience, or a lot of things like, can you are you experienced using Kubernetes, or are you experienced using um Docker or Ansible or Terraform, right? Now there are different use cases for all these things, but of course, trust some people to always want to say, okay, you for to be a DevOps engineer, you need to know this, know this, know this, know this. I literally know somebody who has 9 years of experience and doesn't know how to use Jenkins. You understand? Because DevOps is broad. We have what we call the pipeline engineer. We have what we call the release engineer. We have what we call the monitoring or the SRE engineer. We have what we call the DevOps support or cloud support engineer. You understand? So we have the system administrator. So there's so many roles packed inside the DevOps what is it called, ecosystem. You understand? So if you want to, the more you learn, the better um the better informed you are, the higher your chances of getting a good job, and the higher your chances of being relevant and being valuable, right? Now, but the goal is not for you to start literally learning everything. Slow and steady. You have a target, right? You can learn as much as you want to learn, but don't be buzzed about the tools. That's what I'm saying. That's the most important thing. It's not the tools that's the question. It is the I used to tell my students in Dari.io, right? One of the things we tell people there is um always emphasize on concepts over tools. Concepts over tools, right? So the concepts and the principles will always be there, but the tools will always change. You understand? It's a dynamic thing. It will always change. One tool will come and replace another tool, like that and so on. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So let's continue. All right. So now, if we've been able to the customer has been able to view the product, right? Now, for some reason, the customer could give feedback, or something can happen, right? It could be traffic when so much loads is coming to make so many people are trying to view the product, okay? Or something could even happen, right? Now we can set up some with the help of some configurations, we can set up a server and set up something we call monitoring and observability, right? Something that can monitor these servers and observe the state, the changes or the state of what is happening here. Okay, that's where you hear things like Grafana and Prometheus. Okay, you can hear things like Nagios, you can hear things like New Relics, you can hear things like CloudWatch, Datadog, and the rest of them. There's so many of them, ELK Stack, and the rest of them. Okay, so it all depends on your use case again. So like, I'm not a tool person. It's the principle and the concept that matters, and how to get a job done. You can claim you have you know a lot of tools, and when they give you the job on an interview or in real life, you begin to struggle. Okay, but that's not the main thing. So so when we set up something like this, it monitors all this infrastructure. Okay, and then sometimes we can set it up such that in fact, you can even choose to use the same CI/CD server to even raise tickets. Now, sometimes this all you can even set it up in a way such that you can connect Jenkins to Slack. If the companies are working in a Slack platform, the developers are in a Slack platform, or the support engineers are in a Slack platform. For every build, success or failure, you can integrate it to the Slack so that you'll be getting notifications. Or you can use these tools here. configure it in a way such that based on the threshold, based on certain observation, it will throw an alert or notification, okay? And the support engineers, the cloud teams, okay, cloud DevOps support engineer, whichever title they give themselves, okay? You can get those notifications, raise tickets using Jira, Mozilla, or any of those tools. Please, let's mute ourselves. Okay, let's mute ourselves, please. If you're not asking a question, kindly mute yourself. Okay. But you can unmute yourself if you know you're not going to make noise, right? Sorry. So now, once you get those tickets, you can assign it to the developers or to somebody that you know that's going to fix the issue, and then they will push, and the cycle continues. So that's what we call an auto deployment. That's what we call a CI/CD, and that's what we call the DevOps end-to-end lifecycle. This, in a nutshell, is everything that happens for a DevOps engineer. Any questions so far before we move to other interesting parts of the class? Any questions so far? Can we continue?
Yes.
Okay, no question. All right, let's continue then. All right, Mr. Adisa, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Hello, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Adisa. Oluwasegun, right? Please unmute yourself.
So this question is not about today's class, but about the task that was given to us.
Okay.
Yeah, so I noticed something. So while I was watching some tutorials, they said instead of using npm install when you're trying to build your image, that you could use npm ci. That's safer because you get to use the versions of the dependencies that the original author of the application you're trying to build has used.
Okay.
But when I did that, I could not the Node.js application couldn't find my MongoDB, and I had to like rewrite my own version from scratch. So is there a way to solve those kind of problems?
Okay. All you should know is that that npm CI only comes in when you're setting up the CI/CD. If time permits, I may show us how to do that in our GitHub actions, and you understand it better. You understand? But if you're not setting up any CI/CD, there's no point using npm space CI. Okay? For a simple hosting, you may not need to use npm space CI. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so do we all have our computers up? It's going to be interactive. Mr. Daniel, go ahead, ask your question so that we can start.
Okay. Sorry, good evening. Please, could you? I wanted
Yes, go ahead.
I understood everything you said, but I just wanted to confirm SonarQube can be used for security and both code analysis, right? Like testing duplication of code.
The security itself is what we refer to as code analysis.
Okay.
The code analysis is what we refer to as security. It's a security check. You understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's for SonarQube. Sonar Cloud.
Okay, so SonarQube, sometimes when you configure SonarQube, you can do it locally. It comes with a database. There's about 3 components that comes with your SonarQube. You understand? But we are not diving into that now. But just know that the Sonar Cloud is like using a cloud tool to do the whole operations. You understand? It's still the same thing that we use SonarQube for. You understand? But this time around, you're just using cloud tools for it. You understand? So it's just basically checking for code smells, code vulnerabilities, and the rest of them. A whole lot of things can be checked. Okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so okay, Ben, go ahead. It's because of time so that we can cover a lot. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ben. You have your hand raised. I think, Ben, you wanted to say something? You can mute yourself. Okay, so it's not saying anything. Let's continue then.
Am I audible? I don't know if I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Go ahead, Mr. Ben.
Okay, please. I just wanted to know. So, to confirm. So, artifacts, like you mentioned, like for instance, we've packaged our code. We can package it and into an artifact, or like I don't know.
What did you say?
Like your explanation of artifacts. Explanation of artifacts. Is it like our code, the entire code? Then we like put it in a file. Something
Yes,
like
yes.
keeping it.
It's just your entire code. It's just the same code. Any file that anything you generate after building a file is called an artifact. That's the simplest way to understand it. Everything, once you pass it through a build, anything you see outside of it is called an artifact. It's another way of calling it generated files or built files or your code. It's just that we choose to call it artifacts.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay, so friends, let us set up Jenkins because we can use two types of CI/CD tools. We can use Jenkins and we can use GitHub Actions. Okay, so if you watch my screen, you will literally see this is a Docker script, right? You understand? And once you just run this, so there are a lot of ways we can install Docker. Okay, a lot of ways we can install Jenkins rather. Okay, so one way you can install Jenkins is by going through the website. If you type Jenkins and just click on, this is Jenkins, right? Either you click here or you click download, whichever one. But let's just click the first one so I can walk you through step by step. So if you click download, now this is what you're going to see. Let's close this. So hide window. So this is what you're going to see. All right. So don't worry about the release. Just focus on the long-term support. Okay. Don't worry about this. Just work with this. Okay. So for most of my illustration, it's going to be done on an Ubuntu system. Okay. You can actually install Jenkins on your Windows computer by clicking this. But if we're using Ubuntu, you can click this. If you say Docker, you click on this. You understand? And it's going to show you how you can create a Jenkins application using Docker. Do you understand? So you notice what I did? I clicked on Jenkins from the Docker page. I clicked on Docker. Sorry, this is what I mean. I clicked on Docker from this Jenkins page. When I clicked on it, it took me to this page. And if you notice, this is what we call Docker Hub. In the previous class, we talked about Docker Hub, which is the same thing as GitHub. GitHub helps us to store our codes. Docker Hub helps us to store our Docker images. You know what a Docker image is, okay? A packaged application, any application you package, okay? In the world of containerization, it's called, we can use Docker for it. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? So if you want to use Docker for your, for spinning up Jenkins, all you need to do is to use this command, okay? So once you just have a server like this, so let's see. Let's see if this is going to spin up quickly. So now all you need to do is just to click on Docker pool Jenkins/Jenkins. Jenkins is the name of the organization and Jenkins is the name of the image. Do you understand? And of course, there are different tags, okay? Different kinds of tags, okay? I'm sure you might know this, at least for now, if you don't know how this works, but it's just by practicing over time, you get all this. So these are just different kinds of tags. And I love using the Alpine version of it because it's much more smaller, okay? If you see anything that has to do with Alpine, you see the size very small compared to other ones, as you can see. Do you understand? So, okay, this my server is not spinning up. Let me see. So, okay. Right, so 53133. So okay, so pending when this comes up, let me see if I can stop and restart the instance. So I'll stop it and quickly restart it. Okay, so very good. So clear filters. So let's see. Okay, this is the 14. So it's stopping. It's not yet stopped. All right. So maybe I could quickly use the same approach I used yesterday in the last class so that it doesn't waste our time. So let me see. Let's see. No, let's use Node.js projects. Let's see. Okay. Okay, no problem. Let's use this simple one for now. Or let me use a blank one so nobody gets confused. Create a new repository. Okay. I'll call it DevOps HK CI CD. Right? Okay. I hope this is simple enough. Everybody understand what I'm doing. I'm creating a simple repository. All right. So I'll just create the repository. All right, so we've created it. So I'll click on this and open it using code spaces. For some reason, I don't know why my AWS instances are not opening. Sample.pem. Okay, stopped. Click on this. Start the instance. Okay, it's starting. Instance state equal to running. Okay. Okay, so we are opening this. So all you need to do for this class, just make sure you have a simple repository opened. Okay. Now, I'm trying to show you how to set up Jenkins. Okay. Now, I told you two ways. We can either use the installation method. You can either use Docker, or we can use other installation method. So if I go back, let me show you. So if we come here, I can click on Ubuntu. So if I click on Ubuntu, this is what you're going to see. This is the installation. Okay. So I think I have some script that does that, but because of time, I can literally, okay, let me see. Okay, I have a script that you can use, but it's literally the same thing here. Okay, so this is still taking time to spin up. Okay, while it's doing that, let's check. Okay, so Ubuntu is up and running. Please let me know if I'm too fast and you do not get what I'm doing. Okay, so right, start over. Add and continue. Great. So now we have a server here. Let's click Docker and see Docker is not installed here. So I told you two ways. If you install Docker, all you need to do is just to type Docker pull. I have the notes here if you want to go through the notes. So different ways. Either you come and just say Docker run -d -u root. This is just a simple, a one-line command. Once you run this command, it will literally create a Docker, a Jenkins machine for you, a Jenkins container for you, just using this one line, just this one line. Okay. So some of you that have done Docker before, you understand this command. Okay. This is just to make sure that it runs it in daemon. Okay. Background. It will use root as the username. The name of the container will be what? Jenkins. It will be running on port 8080, external and internal, and it also sets an external port of 50,000. Of course, you can remove this one. Okay, this is not compulsory. Okay, now you can set a volume where you'll be storing the data. So that's what this one is used for the volume. And then this is the name of the image. Okay, so this is Jenkins Docker Hub name, and this is Jenkins image, and this is LTS, the latest version of Jenkins. Okay, so if you run this line, it would typically create a Docker container for you. If you don't prefer this method, you can use Docker Compose to create your Jenkins, and this is a simple way to do it as well. You understand? This is something I created because of time. That's why I'm not going to explain to do these things practically step by step. Okay, but let me just share it on this call, right? In case any of you wants to use it. Let me see. Okay. All right. So yeah. All right. So let's move on. So now, if we don't want to install Docker on this machine, we want to install Jenkins the normal route. All we need to do is just to ensure that we are what is it called? Let's close this. Okay, so let's see. So click on this. So this is the command. You just come here and pick this commands. Of course, make sure you've updated it. Paste this and hit enter. All right. You copy this. I hope I'm not too fast for you. Paste this. Then you do this. I can take them one by one if I want to. Okay. But of course, it's a class session, so I'm trying to be very, very fast so that we can cover more grounds. Okay. So this is me just trying to set up Jenkins. Okay. Okay. Now, so clear. So how do I know if Jenkins is installed? I can do sudo systemctl status and type Jenkins. So as you can see, Jenkins is active and running. Okay. All right. Now I think I already have Jenkins on this server. Else, I see no reason why I was supposed to get something else. All right. So I hope this is not confusing to anybody so far. Any questions so far, please let me know. Now, the next thing we need to do is this. Now that we have Jenkins installed, if you've installed Jenkins, know that Jenkins listens on port 8080. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Jenkins listens on port 8080. Once you're done installing Jenkins, in this case, because we're using AWS, all I need to do is to come get the public IP and paste it and just then put column 8080 and hit enter. Now, of course, it's going to open for me simply because I have this already done before. Okay, I wish this was another instance. Okay, now, but in your own case, make sure that you click on security group, edit it, and add what? Port 8080. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Once you add this port 8080, then you will be able to have access to this. Now, of course, you also need to go through some phases of installation of Jenkins. Okay, let me ask this question so that I know if I can continue. So far, do we all know how to install Jenkins before now? On this call, please let me know. Feel free to unmute yourself and just answer.
No.
I've installed Jenkins before once, but I did it on a Windows instance. No,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, it was Ubuntu. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Yes, I set up a GitHub webhook on it, so that's when there's a push to the repo, it automatically updates.
Okay. Okay. Any other person?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I installed it on my Windows
Okay.
operating system. So
Okay,
I
so
installed
that
Jenkins,
means
yeah.
virtually everybody knows how to install Jenkins. Okay, so we're good to go then. Like more than 90% of everybody here knows how to install Jenkins then. So that's a good one. So I've already showed us what to do, right? So I'm sure anybody that wants to do this can just do it. Else, what I wanted to do was just to run that Docker version of Jenkins. Okay, so now let me sign into my account. So ideally, Jenkins has its password listening on. If the password of Jenkins is listening, sorry, I mean, by default, if you work with admin as the username, if you did not change the username for your Jenkins account or your server, okay, if you use the default admin user, the password is usually stored in a location called /var/library/Jenkins. Then we have admin, right? Then initial password. Let's see. Okay. So, okay, let's see. It should be secrets, right? Let's see. So, okay, Q. So secrets, okay. Secrets, initial admin password. Let's see.
Sorry, Achieva, I think
Yes,
sometimes when you're trying to log into Jenkins for the first time, it usually shows a setting. I think it usually shows that path for you.
Yes, it does. It does.
Let me send you let me share you the path on. I'll share it to you on the chat now.
Okay.
I think this should work.
It's actually this part that I am in, but I don't know, for some reason
Okay.
it's lagging.
Okay, I just shared. Okay, I think this might be relative to. Can you see on I just shared? Can you try it on my phone?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Okay,
So all I
yeah.
need to just do is just to type the initial.
Initial admin password, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't autocomplete for some reason. Let me just type it out and see. Initial admin password. Let's see. Okay, good. So this is the location. Now, so for some of you that has not done it before, you will literally see it there. Okay. Or when you check your sudo system status, when you check this system status, you'll be able to see this password. Okay. And that's the password for the admin. All right. I hope that makes sense to everybody. All right. So all I need to do is to come here and paste that password, and I should be able to sign in. Okay. Let's see. All right. Good. Now we are done. So this is how Jenkins looks like. All right. Now, one of the things I want to do as fast as possible is to show us, I'll just do few things. And I'm still going to send a video to help us to understand the interface of Jenkins and the rest of them. But I'll just show us what we can do in real world. Okay, things like I'll just focus on setting up an auto deployment, right? We'll have our code on GitHub. Okay, we'll connect based on the image we have. If you all can remember this image, okay, so we've created our Jenkins server, which is showing us Jenkins here. Okay, we'll just set up our code on GitHub. We'll connect Jenkins to GitHub and pull it here, and we'll test it, and it's able to work. Okay, now once it's able to work, we'll use the same server to test the code. If it works, fine. Then I'll now show us the next concept. What if you want to use another server? Okay, what if you don't want to use the same server for this purpose? You could want to use this, another kind of server. Okay, then when we do that, if it works, and I'll show us how we can use what we call Jenkins file. I'll just teach us the concept of Jenkins file, writing a Jenkins script. That's a declarative script. Okay, there are different styles of writing a Jenkins file. Okay, but I'll just try to break those ones down and using Blue Ocean. Okay, and then when we are done with that, then I can move to showing us about GitHub Actions. I hope we can cover all these things within this time we have. All right, so let's move on. So the first thing we want to do is to ensure that we have our code on GitHub, which is what we've done here. Okay, so this is a simple GitHub repository we have here. Okay, and in this case, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to do, okay, there are different places we can go to get, let me close this thing. No. How do we, it's how we close this thing again. I'm trying to say, no. All right, let's just see. Okay, good. Yes. All right. So now this is our code base, right? So one thing I wanted to show us is this. So we are going to there are different places we can find some static websites. Okay. We can go to free-CSS. Okay. If you go to free-CSS, you can be able to get some simple static sites from here for illustration purposes. Okay. Now, I think I enjoy using Bootstrap. Yeah, this Start Bootstrap. I enjoy using this one than that free-CSS. And if you come to this Start Bootstrap, let me copy the link and share with you all. This guy, don't stress me again if I ask you to come. All right, copy and paste the link. So I've shared it. All right, good. So, very good. So if I come down, I can choose any design I want. So this is a beautiful one, okay? Or I can use stylish portfolio, whichever one. So, or let me just use this one. So I'll click on this. This is what I want to use, a beautiful one, and it's free. Okay, please, nobody should pay anything. If you're joining this session, please ensure you do not pay for anything except we are telling you that there's a cost involved. All right, I hope that makes sense. So you don't pay because you have the means to, whereas it's meant for free. Except you want to support their work, that's fine. All right, so this is free. Now, so friends, take notes. Okay, if I right click on this, you will see copy link address. I want you to watch at the bottom here. Can you see this address here? That's telling you whenever you hover your cursor on this, it's showing you that there's a file there that is zipped. Okay, and this file is hosted on GitHub. That's why you can see view source code. Okay, so but I just want to copy the link, so I'll just click on this. I've copied it. All right, now so I want to put that code here on my GitHub account. Okay. Now, one way I can quickly do this is by opening this my GitHub account with either I use GitHub desktop and use VS, or I use VS Code. I can literally just come here, or I can just click here and what is it called? No, there's a way we can pull. So this is a different project. Okay, let me use a new one. New window. So let me show you what I mean. So in this window, if I click here and say clone repository, if I put my repository link here, I can be able to clone my repository to this place. Okay. So, but let's see if we can do everything from this code space. So I will just use the word wget. In Linux, there's a command called wget. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So, okay. For some weird reason, this is still trying to connect. But this is not fair. Jeez. All right, so okay, good. I think it's faster now. All right, so while it's coming, so let me see what if I can also still open my repository. So this is my GitHub URL. I'll copy the link, come to my VS Code, right? Click on clone repository, and I will paste the repository URL here and say clone from URL or clone from GitHub, whichever one. So when I do this, it should be able to pull. So it's asking me, where do I want to store that code? Okay, I can say I want to keep it on my desktop. Select as destination. It will clone that repository down to this my computer. Okay, so if I click on open, it will open. So friends, this is my repository that I have there. Okay, so this same repository, I've been able to pull it down using VS Code on my local computer. Okay, now, so this is what I want to do. I'll click on this, go to terminal, click on new terminal, and I will open the terminal version of my computer. I'm going to switch to Git Bash. All right. Now, when I switch to Git Bash, I'll be able to download this thing. So, what I want to use to download it is let me see if wget will work here. Command not found. Git clone will be able to do that. Let's just so this is what I want to pull down. So I'll just right click this again, copy link address. Okay, so let's see git clone. Okay, good. So not found. Weird. HTTPS. Except this is a private repository, but it should work without any problem. Okay, no problem. Let me see. Still no. Okay, it's fine. Let me just try to do it here quickly so that we. Unless. Okay, good. So wget and paste that link. Allow. So this is the link and hit enter. Okay, beautiful. So if I type ls, so you can see the file here, right? Good. So friends, if you're still with me, that static website that I have is what I just pulled down. Okay. So let me so if you type ls, you notice that we have that gh pages. So I want to unzip this, and on Linux we use unzip to extract whatever is inside a zip file. There are a lot of packages that can do that, but we will use unzip. So I will type sudo apt, or let's check if unzip is here by typing just unzip and hit enter. Okay, it's there. It's there already, sir. What do? I will say unzip. Okay. I need to put sudo unzip, and then the name of the file is gh. So if I hit enter, okay, if I type ls, you will notice it has unzipped the file, and what you can see is the folder called startup bootstrap. I hope that makes sense. Okay, good. Now I want to rename that folder. I'll call it code. So I'll use sudo mv, change that folder to code. I'll hit enter. So can you see it has renamed that thing to code? Beautiful. So I can now delete that gh. So I will use sudo rm gh. All right, good. So if I type ls, we're good to go. Clear. Good. So our code is here. This is our static code. Now we want to connect this. Remember that anything you see here, friends, is ideally what we are meant to see in our GitHub account. Okay. For now, we've not been able to. If you come here, GitHub is still, I'm sure this guy is still trying to set up. Okay. But we are supposed to commit the code. Okay. Once you're done committing it, you'll be able to see that code we just did here on GitHub. You understand? All right. So let me show you how to connect Jenkins with your GitHub account. So the first thing you need to do is this. You need to create what we call a job on Jenkins. So if you click on this, now there are different kinds of job. Okay. So you can create a freestyle job, a pipeline, or a multi-branch pipeline, or different kinds of projects on what is it called, Jenkins. So I'll just keep it very simple and choose this freestyle project. I'll give it a name. So I'll call it demo 1. All right. I choose freestyle project. I hope I've not lost you. Demo 1 freestyle project. I'll click on OK. Now, if you're like me, you might get some errors. Okay. Sometimes you will get some errors, and those errors could be HTTP errors, 443 errors, and the rest of them. Okay. Now, you shouldn't bother. What you should do, sometimes you may not get this exact page. If you have been following me, you might not get this exact page. You might get a different, you'll get an error message. If you get that kind of error message, let me show you what to do to fix that error message. Just, if you are still on this page, click on Manage Jenkins. Okay. Click on Manage Jenkins. Now, when you click on Manage Jenkins, you're going to see something like security. Okay. Security. When you click on security, I want you to go to the bottom, okay, of the page. Now you're going to see something we call cross-site scripting. Just for, I think it's cross-site reference something protection, forgery, request forgery or something like that. So now, if you want to prevent some kind of things, okay, in terms of your attacks and the rest on this account, you just have to enable proxy compatibility, okay, to prevent that error. Understand this when you start doing this practically. Some of you, if you're doing it on this call, you may be getting some errors. Just make sure you check this box here, okay? Once you check this box, click apply and click save. I hope that makes sense, all right? If it gives you error, refresh the page, check this thing again, click apply and click save. Make sure you get it to work before you can move on from this page, else you will not get a smooth operation like I'm doing. All right. So now we want to create a simple, so I will just say a demo, first demo project on CI/CD. Okay. So now, first thing I will want to do on this project, okay, is what I usually will do is to choose something like this. Now, as a DevOps engineer, there's something we call log rotation, but I don't want to confuse anybody for now, so I'll just keep it very simple. Okay, so I usually want to keep my build, especially on Jenkins, for just 2 days. Okay, now, so maximum of builds to keep just 2. I usually do something like this. Now, there's something we call log rotation. You can read up on it and understand it very, very well. It's actually a task. All right. So the next thing I will do is to click on Git. Now, well, we might get into parameterization, but let's just move on. So I'll click on Git. Now, the next thing I want to do is this. I hope I've not lost anybody if you're learning this thing for the first time. Okay, once you're creating a simple demo like this, all you need to do is to come to the bottom and put your repository. Remember, we want to connect Jenkins with what? GitHub, following this illustration that I showed us here. Okay, we want Jenkins to be able to pull the code that's available on GitHub. We call it GitHub integration, to integrate GitHub with Jenkins. All right, so we will put the URL of our Git repository. So we'll come here and click here, and this is the repository. So you click on this and come here. So this is repository URL. It's different from the project URL. This is the project URL. This is the repository URL. Take note of those differences. So I'll come here and paste this. So when I paste this, now take note, if this repository is public, when we're creating this repository, we created it as public. Okay, if it was private, we will need access. We'll need to grant access by providing a username and password, or username and token. Okay, or token. Now, so let's close this. So what I will do in this case, because it's public, there's no need for those errors has cleared. So I don't need to put any credentials. All right, I hope this makes sense. So I will scroll down, and then the next thing I want to do is this repository that I'm working on. What's the name of the branch? You can see here, main. All right, main. Before now, branch names used to be master, but it's currently main because of the whole Black Lives Matter. Okay, GitHub in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, they changed things like that. Okay, instead of master and slave, you hear things like a controller and node. You understand? And worker, rather. You understand? Instead of master and slave, instead of blacklist and whitelist, you get all those racial slur words. So instead of master, you hear words like main. So that's the name of this repository, this branch. So it's main. So I'll come here and change this thing from master to main. All right, good. So just this alone, putting the URL, changing the branch name, it's enough. That is all. Okay, so all I need to do at this point is to click on apply. But okay, I'm going to do something extra. Okay, and what I will just do is to come here and click on this and say execute a shell. Okay, different steps. So once you click on this drop down, you'll see this. Now if I close this, you won't see that. Okay, there are different operations that can happen. Some of these things you're seeing here are different package managers. There's one we call Ant, there's Gradle, and there's Maven, like I told us based on our illustration. Okay, if you're doing your deployment on Windows, you can do this. If it's on Linux, you can use this. Right, so I'll just click on this to write a simple script. So I could just say, I could just type ls. That's all I want. Just show me what's in that location. All right, so all I need to do is to click apply and click save. All right, okay. Now if you see so far, this is the page you will see here. All I need to do is to click on build now, and once I click on build now, it will try to trigger something. And did you notice that it triggered something and we have success here? If you can see this green mark, check mark, it means it's successful. It has connected. So if I click on this, just clicking on this, okay, take note of what I did. I clicked on build now and this triggered, and you can see check mark. So if you click on this now, you will notice that this is going to change. See that? If I click on console output, you're going to see the results. Okay, so when I type ls, this is the result, readme, because that's the only file inside this. Did you see that? So if I click on add inside this GitHub profile, if I click here, create a new file and add an extra file. Maybe I added a file and let's see, I call it dummy file. Did you see that? Nothing is here, right? So I'll just click on commit changes. Okay. So I have two files now. So if you come to your Jenkins and go back, click on this one. Did you see the build now again? Click on it again and see what happens. It's going to run a build again. Can you see? It's running the build. Did you see that? So the second build is successful. This is the first one. This is the second one. If you click on it, you're going to see the output. And did you notice that you're seeing dummy file here? So that tells us that this successfully connects to what? Our GitHub account, and we can see the results here. All right, good. Now, let's move into something more interesting. Now, this is one way of connecting Jenkins to GitHub, okay? Another interesting way will always do, if you say, I clicked on configure, I went back by clicking here, and then you can see configure. If you want to make any changes to the same project, click on configure, okay? If you click on configure, you can see this, okay? Now, if you scroll down, you can see all the configuration you had, okay? If you want to improve more, you can improve more, all right? So one thing I can do is there's something we call build triggers, okay? Now, there are different ways we can do this. We can trigger this remotely. So I'll just show us these three, 1, 2, 3, then we'll move to the next thing. So if I want to trigger this thing, I can click on this, okay? When I click on trigger builds remotely, this is just saying anywhere I am, if I run that script, it will automatically trigger the build. Let me show you what it means. So authentication token, if I come here and just put anything, maybe I just type password dash Mayowa. Did you see this? Password dash Mayowa. That's what I did, right? So if I hit and now, what did you see here? Use the following URL to trigger the build remotely. So if you copy this, did you see what we have here? Just copy this, copy it, and let's paste it somewhere. Ctrl T. So this is what we have. Is it true? Now, what's the first thing you can see here? Is it lagging? Can you all see my screen?
Hello, Achiba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think it's lagging.
Yes,
Like
it's lagging. I
it's
think like
lagging
5
so much, and
seconds.
you're kind of faster. Like you're very fast, and we're not seeing the stuff.
All right, I'm so sorry. I just presume that a lot of you have known these basics. That's the reason why I increased my pace. And then secondly, and let me disconnect my internet and rejoin back again. Hopefully it will be better. Does that make sense? Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, so we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me just quickly disconnect and rejoin. Thank you so much. If I end the meeting, it's going to exit everybody.
Hello, Achiro.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay, great. Okay, so can you see my screen also? Let me know if it's
Yes.
lagging. All right. Okay, so I'm going to switch to another screen. Let me know if you can see the screen. Can you see the different screen? Let me know if it's lagging.
Yes,
All right.
it's not lagging.
All right, good. So I just wanted to be sure. Okay, thank you so much, friends. All right, so all right, so back to our illustration. So I was trying to explain to us, right? If you understood everything I've done to this point, right? We were able to we triggered the second build. I'm sure everybody understood how I triggered the second build, right? Do we understand to that point? If the answer is yes, then the next thing I showed us is this. I told you there are 3 different ways we can trigger a build when we've connected to Jenkins, our Jenkins to GitHub. If you go back to configure, right, and it shows you this. If you come here under the build triggers, right, there's something we call trigger builds remotely. So from a script, it's going to just generate a kind of script, just a one-liner that whenever you run that line, it's going to run a build. And I'll show you how that works. So I'll click on this. Did you see this? Now it's asking me for authentication token. It's like saying put any token you feel like, or anything. It could be a text, it could be anything. You understand? So I can come here and just put password, right? And I put Mayor. Did you see that? Just a simple text. I know you all said I was fast, so I'll try to slow down. So I just put the simple name here. It can be anything. Again, take note of that. It can be mixed with numbers or anything. Okay. So now you need to copy. Did you see this? Copy this link you see here. Okay. I've copied it already, and that's what we have here. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Now this is it. Now this is the most important thing we need here. Okay. So I don't need this for now. So this particular one is what we need because there's an or here. Okay, please don't worry about this. Just remove this one here. Okay, take note of it. This. Okay. So Jenkins URL. What's the Jenkins URL? It's exactly what we have here. So I'll come here and copy this URL. Okay. Update this and paste it here. I hope you didn't get lost. Did you see what I? Okay, the IP and the port. Good. Then the next thing is asking me for the token name. What's the name of the token? Okay, so in this case, it's exactly this same token. Did you see that? All right, so I'll come here and pass the same token name that I have here. This is it. Is it not true? Good. So that's all. Scroll down and click on, just click on apply and click on save. Now, friends, how many builds can we see here? We can see 2, right? Okay, if you can see two here, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to move to a different tab. Now, this same thing that I have here, I'm going to copy it. Okay. Come here and just over the browser. Of course, it can be, let me say Control-Shift-N. This is an incognito browser, right? So let's come to this place. So we'll come here and paste that script. So this is a simple, so if I hit enter, what was going to happen? So it's asking me to sign in, of course. So let's see, let's see, admin. And do I still have that password? Yeah, I think I should still do. Okay, so copy this. Come to this. Right? Paste. Sign in. Okay. Just this signing in alone. So let's see. So did you notice we have the third build triggered already? Friends, do we all understand? Can you see? Just this, anytime we run this script, automatically it triggers a build. So that is, oh my God, no, I don't want to delete this. So that is one way we can learn how to trigger a build. Okay, so anytime you run this script, automatically it will run a build. So that is one way. Second way, another way. Let's uncheck this now. You can use what we call build periodically using what we call cron tab. So if you select this, you can see schedule. Okay, you can pass what we call cron tab. Let me show you what I mean. Cron tab is it's very, very important if you want to be very, very effective as a DevOps engineer. Okay, you want to run cron jobs or what we call some tasks. You want to do them periodically. Okay, so this is a very good site. You can go there to learn how this cron tab stuff works. Okay, now but this is how it looks like. So if you come here, I'm just put this simple asterisk here, just here. Okay, what this means is, so if you're confused, just click on this question mark. Okay, it's going to show you different things. Okay, so this means just putting this alone means every minute, every single minute, it will be running that build. Okay, but if you don't want to do that, you can just come here and you can say H divided by 2. So what this means is every for the first one, okay, what it means is every 2 minutes you should be running a build. Please, does that make sense? So that's what this literally means. Every 2 minutes it will be running a build. Okay, so and this is one way. Now, but these are not good practices. Okay, so that's why I will not dwell on things like this. So let me just move on. So let's collapse this. Okay, so I've showed us how this works. Okay, so if you apply this and click save, every 2 minutes it will be running a build. So let's move on. Okay, so this is the most important one that people usually use. So you can select this. So this is called GitHub webhook, okay, or hook trigger. Now, when you select this and you click on what is it called, apply, and you click on save. I hope I'm not too fast for you. Okay, now how do you get to trigger another build? I believe you all can see that this is 2. There's no the third one, the first one is not here because I said it should be keeping only 2 builds. I don't want it to be occupying space on my server, especially if you're working with EC2 instances. Do you understand? If you do df space h, and hit enter, you'll be able to see the size of your computer. You understand? This is the size of the EBS volume for this computer. You understand? And if you start running a lot of builds, maybe you are practicing, right? If you're practicing, you're having a lot of builds, you may be occupying a lot of space. Okay, so this is just over time. Okay, I'm just keeping 2 builds. Okay, so please, I'm so sorry for the background noise. Okay, all right. The next thing I want to show us is this. I've shown us how to select this hook, right? I selected this, right? So I selected this now, but this does not stop. Okay, if you come here, this is the GitHub repository. Can we all see settings here? Okay, I hope I've not lost you. Once you check this box, come to your GitHub repository. Did you see settings? Click on settings. Okay, now when you click on settings, you're going to see something we call webhooks. Okay, for this particular repository, you're going to see webhooks. Click on it. Now when you click on webhooks, you're going to see add webhook. All right, for this particular project, we want to connect it to our Jenkins. So you click on add webhook. It's going to ask you for password. Okay, so I'll just connect to it. Okay, friends. Now it's asking us for our URL, payload URL. You can remove whatever is there. All right. And what are we going to put here? Now, all you need to put here is simply your Jenkins URL. Just come here and copy this. Okay. So come here and paste this. Can you see http:// can you see the IP column 8080? I hope this is not confusing anybody. So once you've gotten this, the next thing you need to do is to type GitHub -webhook, and then you put a slash. This slash is very important. Okay, so you can copy this and paste it so that you can always remember. Okay, I'll just share it with you also. You can make reference to it anytime. Okay, it's very important. All right, so now once you've done this, I think that's all. Some people change it to application and JSON. It doesn't matter, it will work. Okay, so you can for now it's just the push event. Anytime somebody pushes to this GitHub repository, it will be showing us on Jenkins. So far, this is one of them. If you click on let me select individual events, if you come down here, you see so many other things. You can say anytime somebody does pull requests, if there's any pull requests, it should trigger it on Jenkins. If anybody does any push requests, any push rather, okay, or they start a repository, anything you want to do, do you understand? You can do that. Okay, so but some people usually just keep it simple and say just the push event. I hope that makes sense. All right, or send me everything. Okay, just know that the more things you do, the more space you occupy on your server. So I'll just choose this and click on add webhook. Okay, now you wait a few minutes or seconds rather, and it's going to give you this notification. Okay, if you can see this check mark, it means we did a great job. Okay, so last delivery was successful. All right, good. So it means it's connected to our GitHub. All right, now automatically, now if we've set up something like this, friends, if we've set up something like this, and we've checked this box, we are good to go. Okay, so all you need to do now is just to click apply and click save. Okay, so now do you remember that in this code file, so all I need to do, I'll go back to code now. All right, so now this is the files we have there, the readme file and the dummy file. So let me update whatever is in this dummy file again so that we'll see. So I'll click on the dummy file. Okay, you see nothing is here. I'll edit it and change it to something easier. Did you see that? So I'll click on commit changes. And so immediately I make this commit. It's like pushing, okay? It's pushing it into the main branch. So immediately I click on this. Take note of what is going to happen here, okay? You're going to see it's going to trigger another build, okay? So can you see it has triggered another build by itself automatically? I didn't do anything manually. Did you see that? So anytime changes are done, anytime you do changes to the code repository, it will trigger a chain, a build. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, now let us set up a simple project. So sometimes you could be if you're asked to set up a simple CI/CD project, right? Maybe your code base of your company, right? In this case, your company's code base can be a Node.js application. It could be a Next.js application, whichever the code application is. The most important thing is sometimes you may be asked to deploy it on an EC2 server. The most important thing is that you need a URL to confirm that whatever the person deployed is working. CI/CD is working. Okay, so let's just use one server first to test it. Then we can use another server. Okay, so what will I do now? Okay, let's do this. Okay, so this is what I want to do quickly, friends. I'm going to quickly install Nginx on this server. Okay, so if I do sudo apt install Nginx -y. Okay, I think there's Nginx here, so I can just type. Okay, if I say which Nginx, okay, it's there. So I already have Nginx on this server. All right, so I hope you all can still hear me and I'm not too fast for your understanding. So now we have Nginx installed. Friends, if you can remember, or from what we did in previous class, especially in the first class, you know that Nginx is a web server, right? We can use it to host simple static web applications, right? Now, where do we have, okay, let me copy the IP for this my server. What it means is that if I copy the public IP for this, yes, this is the public IP of this server, right? It means that if I just copy it, Ctrl+C, if I paste the IP and hit enter, we should be able to see something. So this is based on the configuration I have on this particular server. Some of you will be wondering, how did we get this is app 1 here? Okay, this particular server based on the configuration. Let me show you what I mean. If you cd into /etc, okay, Nginx, okay, if you go to this place, right, in this directory, anytime you install Nginx, this is the configuration directory. If you type ls, you see a lot of things here. Okay, now there's something we call sites enabled. Okay, so I'll go into sites enabled. All right, so the current site, and if we type ls, you're going to see some configuration. Okay, I was the one that did this in one of my classes right now. So that this is diary app 1. Let me cut the content of it so you can see what I have there. So can you see this is diary app 1, right? And it's showing you this is app 1 now, and this was configured. Okay, let me see. Okay, this is my default. Let me check something again. At my default. Okay, now cat. Let's see, which other one do we have there? Okay, I think it's the load balancer that was happening there. Okay, friends, this is what is happening. I actually have a load balancer configured here. You understand? And if you see on the port 80, it is tilting between 2 applications. listening on port 9000 and port 9090. If you doubt me, if I reload this, you're going to see what's going to happen. So watch what's happening. Can you see this is app 2? It will continue to load balance between app 1 and app 2. Now, for some of you, I'm sure you already know how to set up something very simple like this. Do you understand? Now, what I simply wanted to do, right, was to show you how you can be able to set up an auto deployment using Nginx in this case. Okay, so let's assume that we are working with this load balancer, right? And on port 9000, which is serving us content. Okay, so this port, we have port 9000, which is having its content here. Please let me know if you're confused, okay? So that I can try to throw more clarity, okay? So there's a location, this location here, right, is where I have my files. So if I cd into that location, Control E, I'll put sudo, Control E to go to the end, remove the, okay, cd command not found. Interesting. All right, so I mean this. So if I type ls, you're going to see that there's a file there called index.html. If I cut this index.html, you're going to see that there's a file there called this is app1. Does this make sense? Now, so friends, this is what I want to do. Do you understand? I want anytime we're going to pull something from our GitHub that will go and update whatever we have in this location. Do you understand? It will update whatever we have in this app1 location. Do you understand? So this is what I'm going to do from my GitHub. So I'm going to come here and create a file here. Okay, so I'm going to create a file here, and let's see. This is lagging for some reason, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to call this index. Okay, let's just call it index1.html. Index1.html. As long as it has HTML, it will still work anyway. So this is my updated app 1. Did you see that? So I'm going to copy this and save this. Okay. Okay, so this is index 1. Now, so I have a new file here. Okay. Now, but if you on Jenkins, right? Anytime you are working with Jenkins, Jenkins has a location where the files are usually stored. We call it the workspace directory, right? We call it the workspace directory. Let me show you what I mean. If you click on this and come to this is the one we are working with, right? This demo 1. Click on it. Now, if you notice, you're going to see something we call workspace. Did you see workspace? If you click on this, it's going to show you that this is the location we have. Okay, this workspace location on your server, this is the server, right? Where do we find these files? Okay, we have it in a location. Let me show you where it is. If you go into cd, if you cd into slash, what is it called? Slash var slash I think let me see. Jenkins. Let me see if this say okay. var library. Sorry. Slash var library Jenkins workspace. It keeps disconnecting. Good. So if you go to this part, slash var library Jenkins workspace and type ls. Sorry, ls. you're going to see that particular demo1. If you cd into demo1 and type ls, you're going to see the files. Can you see? Can you see that index1? So for every time we run a build, right, this is where Jenkins usually store it. Now, friends, one thing I want to do is this. I want anytime we run a build, anything we have, this index1 file, I want to copy it into this location. Did you see what is here? So whatever is in this location, I want to copy it into this location. Does that make sense? So how do we do that? Let's click on configure. I hope you're not confused. Please let me know if you need more clarity. Okay, so instead of ls, right? So I'm going to do something. I'm going to say, let's use sudo, right? I want to copy the index file. So I want to copy this index1.html. Okay, now I want to copy index1.html. It can be just that file. It can be any other one. Okay, I want to copy that file. Okay, and I want to copy it into which location? /var/ww/word diary app1. So diary app1. Does that make sense? So I want to copy this file into this location. I hope that makes sense. So this is what I have here. So if it doesn't work, it will tell us. So one way, another thing we can do is we can do ls and put semicolon if we want to. Okay, so that it should show us what is there, and then, but let's just keep it very simple. All right, so I'll click on apply and I'll click and save. So now let's go and nothing is going to happen except we manually click on build now. Okay, so we can go and update the change. So we can come here and say we want to edit this file, but let's just quickly do it from here. Let's just trigger the build manually. Okay, so I'm going to click here and say build now. Okay, so it has failed. We've gotten our first failure. So if I click on this, you're going to see this is what we have here, and it's telling us password is required. So it's because we put this sudo here. That's why it's telling us that we need password. Okay, so let's go back and edit that thing. All right, so click on configure and remove one way we can do that. Yeah, let's remove this sudo and see. Okay, click on apply and click on save. All right, so let's trigger the build again manually. Okay, it has failed. Again, let's see. Now it said cannot create regular file. This permission is permission denied. Okay, so see what I want to do. Okay, so one way we can do this quickly. One way is this. Just for illustration purposes, right? You see this part here, okay? This particular part here. Let's cd into that part. So if you type ll, you're going to notice something, right? This directory, this directory is owned by root. Did you see that? It's owned by root. Do you understand? Now, there are a lot of things we can do, okay? We can either choose to change the ownership, right? We can just come and say we want to change the ownership, or we want to by change the ownership, what I mean is make this this directory to be readable and accessible by anybody. Do you understand? That is one way. Another way could be by creating a Jenkins user. Okay. Before I continue, please does this make sense? Is this making sense to everybody? Or are we confused? Have I lost anybody? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if the others can still hear you.
Okay. If you're understanding everything I'm saying, let me know. Or do you want us to move to the more complex things? Because there's a lot more complex things than this. Okay, we have 15
It's
persons.
okay. Just keep going, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
okay.
So
It's still lagging a bit, so it's okay.
is this still lagging?
Your screen is lagging like mad, but you can just manage.
You can still manage it, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why the network was before today. So sorry. Wow. I can imagine how frustrating it is. I'm so sorry, please. Okay. Can I create a regular file? So let's try this recursive. Something came to mind now, so I'll go back and edit this. My network is actually poor. I can see it's taking time to even load. Some weird reason. All right, so let's see cp-r, which is recursive. Copy everything here. Okay, copy everything here into this location. Apply, save. You now. You must use post method triggers. So now let me explain something to some of you, because when you're using Jenkins and GitHub, because GitHub is not, it's free, but sometimes you'll be getting some error messages that are just uniquely to GitHub. You understand? So I want you to know that such a thing exists. Okay, that's what we call time limits based on the API. Do you understand? So it's something that you should take into consideration when you're working with GitHub. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so what I will need to do here to this directory, I will just do what we call sudo change. Okay, let's change mode. Let's change mode and make this folder 777 to anybody. Even though it's not a good security, it's not recommended. It's not something I would recommend to anybody. Okay. All right, good. So if I type LL, so read write execute has been given access to that folder. So let's run this again. All right. So let's click on build now. All right. So did you notice that the build is now successful? Friends, did you see the build is now successful? So if I come to, if I type ls now, did you see I have index1.html here? So ideally, if I come to my IP, so if I come here and put /index1.html and hit enter, I should let me see. This is index1.h2. Okay, I know why it's doing this. It's because of the load balancing. It's because of the load balancing. Good. So you can literally see this. This is my updated app one. So friends, this is the way it works. So this is a simple CI/CD. So for every change, what will your group be? Okay, let me say, somebody said, if we are to change access to group instead of root, what will your group be on this server? Group can work, but I would rather prefer, rather than even doing those modifications, you can create a user called Jenkins. You understand? Because Jenkins works with a user called Jenkins. Okay, so once you create a user called Jenkins and you give that Jenkins, if you create a user called Jenkins, right? If you create a user called Jenkins, you can just go to the vsudo file. Sorry, vi sudo file. Do you understand? Once you go to this file, all you need to do is just to come to the bottom and add the right permission. So if you just add it here, you'll be able to. So if you add it here, okay, add that user here, okay, and give it the required permission. You can say no password. You understand? In other words, with that Jenkins user, you will be able, this Jenkins. So all you need to do is to make sure that when you are installing Jenkins, you understand? When you are installing Jenkins, you're going to install Jenkins on that particular account. You understand? And by so doing, you won't have all those permission issues. I hope that makes sense. That's the easiest and the recommended way. You understand? So that you don't have to start working with group permission and the rest of them. Some people use root accounts when they want to do some of these things. Okay, but it's better you just use the normal what is it called? Jenkins user account like I recommended. Okay, so this is just a simple CI/CD stuff we just did. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So anytime I just come here now, and for some reason this my network is poor in this class for some reason. I really don't know why it's acting weird today. Okay, I'm so sorry. So but this is a simple CI/CD. So if I come here, this is this index1.html now. So if I open this file now and click on this, okay, so if this is my updated app one, I can change this and say Jenkins is fun and pays well. Did you see that? Just this code alone, if I click on this and click on commit changes, now immediately this is like me doing it manually from my computer. Do you understand? Remember, that's the way it works. Ideally, you may not be doing this over your computer. Is it not true? You may not be doing it over your browser. That's what I mean. Okay, developers from different places will be the ones making the changes. Okay, and when they push to the GitHub repository, okay, in this case they push something like Jenkins is fun and it pays well. Your job as the DevOps engineer is to connect the GitHub account to Jenkins such that any change they do will be automatically triggered. And as you can see, that change has been triggered. So for you to see this check mark, it means if I come to this place now and reload this thing, I should be able to see that page. Sorry, can you see Jenkins is fun and pays well. So this is what we call CI/CD, auto deployment. Now, any questions so far? So the most important thing you should know is that this is done on the same server. Do you understand? Everything I'm doing is done on the same server. In most cases, you may not use the same server. Okay? You may not use the same server. What if you want to use another server? Okay? So if you want to use another server, you can literally use some what we call plugins on Jenkins. Okay, either you use plugins or you can use what we call nodes. Okay, so if you click on manage Jenkins, there's something we call nodes. So if you click here, you can add another node. Okay, it could be a virtual machine, it could be another EC2 instance server. Okay, if you click on this, of course, it's very, very simple to do the connection. It's just because of time. Okay, so once you click on this, you'll be able to create another node. Or if you want to use another approach, you can use cloud to just connect to an EC2 instance and provide the right information. Or you can click on plugins and use what we call publish over SSH. Okay, there are a lot of plugins, is like additional softwares. Okay, if you click on available plugins, you can see plugins you can use. I know I'm saying so many things and I'm rushing at this point, but I just want you to know that if you want to connect another EC2 instance to be deploying it there, all you need to do is to use something we call publish over SSH. So I just type publish. Can you see it here? Sorry, if you come down, publish over, can you see? Publish over SSH. So you can select this. Okay, once you select this, you can click on install. Now you see some of these things I'm doing over the UI. You can actually do it over the terminal. It's what we call Jenkins CLI. You can use Jenkins CLI if you want to. Okay, so if I click on manage Jenkins to go back, if you come to the bottom, let's see, this is what we call Jenkins CLI. So all you need to be doing is just to be running some commands. Everything, in fact, everything you see on this UI, yeah, you can do it on the terminal. There's some people that will not leave their terminal. Everything they will be doing is on the terminal. You understand? So all you need to do is just to click on this Jenkins CLI. And once you click on the Jenkins CLI, all you need to do is to click on this thing. If you click on this and download it to your server, right? All you need to do is to copy this, and that's all. You'll be able to do all these operations here. You see, you can create a job, you can delete the job, you can delete a node, you can do so many things. You can do a lot of things. You can even install a plugin, all from the terminal, from the CLI. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so it's because of I don't want to keep us longer here on this call, but this is a simple CI server, right? Let me just show us one thing, then I'll wrap it up on Jenkins because of time. Again, like I said, so in real life, what we usually use, what I love using, is what we call Blue Ocean. Okay, Blue Ocean pipeline. Now, let me show you. If I click on manage Jenkins, I told you anything you want to install, anything you want to do. A lot of times, people can do their deployment over. Let me show you something. Let's go to slides, and I have a lot of screenshots, but I couldn't show you some of these things because of time, right? Okay, let's see. No, okay, so all right, so if you are doing some deployments, right? Okay, let me use this. So if you're doing some deployments on through Jenkins, right, you can choose to deploy it over Docker, right? You can also choose to deploy it to a simple virtual machine, or you can deploy it to AWS ECS, or you can deploy it to AWS EC2 instance, or you can deploy it to AWS EBS. That's Elastic Beanstalk. Do you understand? So there's so many ways we can deploy it that will connect to the internet and the customers will be able to access it. Okay, so I don't want you to limit yourself to just when you're working with Jenkins or any CI. So the deployment can be done on different platforms. Okay, what we just did now is deploy it on the same EC2 instance. Okay, we just did it on deploying it on the same server that we are using for our Jenkins. If there was another server, like in this case, what we have here, let's say I have another server here called Red Hat. Is it true? If I want to deploy everything I'm doing, okay, all my build, I want to be deploying it to this server. It's possible. How will I do that? All I need to do is, first of all, log into this server. Do you understand? And on your Jenkins, I've told you what to do. Go to the plugins and install that publish over SSH. Okay. If you've installed the publish over SSH, come to system configuration, click on system. And if you scroll down, let's wait a little bit. If you scroll down, you're going to see something like at the bottom, you'll be able to see the publish over SSH plugin to modify. Good. So this is it here. Did you see that? Remember, I told you to manage and click on the system configure or system. Just click on it and you'll see this. Okay. All you need to do is to put the private key for that particular server. If it is this server, or in this case, this was the server I was using. Okay. That's Red Hat server. Okay. If I was using that particular Red Hat server, all I need to do, right, is to provide the private key for it. Okay. If I can put the path to the key, this is where I paste the key itself. Okay. The private key when you are creating the instance. Once you put the private key here, I think that's all. Then you click on, let me see. No, I don't think we need this. So that's all. All you need to do is just to put the, what is it called? If you click on add, it's going to ask you to put some information. This is where the major thing is. Once you put the key, let me show us what I'm trying to illustrate. This instance is what we have here. Okay, let me stop this instance and start it again quickly. Okay, so this particular instance, okay, I used a key when creating the instance, and the name of the key is called sample. Okay, now if you open that key, right, definitely you're going to see the content of the key. Okay, it's a key file. All right, now just any other key that you download. Now that key is what you're going to parse in this location. You're going to drop the contents of the key. You understand? You drop the contents of the key in this location. Then you're going to give the server a dummy name, any name you want to call it. That's what you give it here. So let's say I want to call it test or deploy server, deploy dash server, right? And host name is literally the IP. Do you understand? The IP for the server you want to deploy to. You understand? And in this case, is the Red Hat server we want to deploy to, which is this one. So if I select this, let's start this instance again. Okay, start. So when we get the IP, right, you come here and paste the IP. The username is going to be ec2-user. I'm sure we all know for Red Hat instances is ec2-user instead of Ubuntu. Okay, so once you come here, you put ec2-user, and this one we call directory is in that server. Which location do you want it to drop the files? You understand? You put the path here. Once you put the path, that's all. All you need to do is just to click on test configuration. If it gives you success, it means that Jenkins can communicate with that server, and that's all. Let me show us quickly. So with this server is running, click on this public IP, come here and paste it here. Okay, come here and say ec2-user. Okay, let's just say deploy. Let me just put a directory here called deploy. Okay, come here. This server, let's gain access to it. Close. Show logs. Close. Close. So I'll click on this. The Red Hat server I'm trying to connect to. Let me see. Let's edit this. Okay, see the Red Hat server here. So sample.pem. So this is the IP. Okay, good. So double click on it. Add and continue. Good. So I'm into the server, right? So friends, all I need to do is to create a folder in this server, this particular server. So what will I do? I'll just create mkdir. I'll call it okay, let me say /deploy, whichever one. So if I hit enter, sudo bang bang. So it has created a folder for me. If you type ls, you will not see it here. Is it not true? You will have to go to the root directory to be able to see it there. So if I go to cd into slash, cd into slash, if I type ls, you'll be able to see the deploy folder, right? cd into the deploy folder. So if I type pwd, can you see the path? If I type ll, so this is the path. Is that true? Now, in this location is where I want it to drop it. Is that true? Now, let me do something just to show us something. In this location, if I type ls, I won't see anything, right? ls-l. Let me see. Okay, I can't see anything yet still. I want, okay. So, in this path here, which is what I've put here, EC2-user. So the key file is, we've not posted the key file. So what we are supposed to drop here is the key. So let me go to my system where I have that key file. So let's do this. In this location, I have something called sample. Okay, good. So this is the file here. So I'll double click on this and open it in Notepad. Okay, good. So copy the contents of this and paste it inside here. Okay, that's all. So paste the key there, then click on test configuration. Can you see success? If you can get this success, it means you're good. It means Jenkins can communicate with that Red Hat server. Friends, do we understand this? Good. So all I need to do is just to click on apply and click on save. Did you see that? Good. So what next do I need to do? So let's click on this and say configure. Now, so all I need to do, if I want the code to be stored in that location, all I need to do is to come here and say, after the build, post build, can you see, check here, you're going to see send build artifacts, send build artifacts over SSH, post build action, send build artifacts over SSH. So, did you see? So can you see that name? I called it deploy server, that selected it. So this is what we have here. So I can just, if you click on this, it can just show you. So I wanted to copy everything. So okay, good. So this is just saying copy everything, transfer everything. So remote directory, where do you want it to deploy it? That same location, that's all. So if I click on apply and click on save, so let's manually just trigger it. So if I click on this, okay, let's see. Okay, so it's unstable. So maybe something happened. Click on this. Okay, something happened. So it could not create or change that directory. Okay, so it was able to connect to that server, but the goal was that we want to be able to see that when we type ls here, we want to be able to see that file in this location. So I think something happened. So one of the things we can do is to give permission to this directory. Okay, we can do something we call sudo change ownership and say okay, let's step out of this cd. So if I say sudo change ownership ec2 dash user for the then ec2 dash user. Okay, if I do this, I want it to be for this part. So this is what I mean. So I'm giving the user and the group ec2 user should be the owner of this part. Okay, this is just what I'm trying to do. This should be the owner of this part. So if I hit enter, this is what you get. All right, so let's try and run this again. Okay, it could not do any, it could not gain access to that directory. So let's go back and say build now again. Okay, there's some delays. Let's go back. Okay, so can you see it's worked? So let's come here and let's from here, let's type ls. Why is the server acting this way? ls of what is in deploy / deploy. So if you do this, you should be able to see something. So can we see there's something inside, right? There's deploy inside. So we can, let's check what is inside that deploy. Can you see the dummy files? Can you see? So this is how we can install. So if you notice what I've just achieved, we've been able to connect into another server using another plugin. So this same way, we can also say if we want to, if we install Nginx on this server now, right, on this particular server, and say you want to be storing it in that particular location, all you need to do is in the post build, change the location instead of / deploy, put the right path there. And once you put the right path there, it will deploy it to that server. Do you understand? I hope this makes sense to everybody on this call. Okay, so after we've done that, let's move to the next thing I want to show you quickly. Okay. Okay, so let's click on Manage Jenkins and let's move with what we call Blue Ocean. Blue Ocean. Okay, so go to available plugins and type Blue Ocean. All right. So if you do this, you're going to see this. Okay, just select this and click on install. Okay. I hope this session is being recorded. Okay, yeah, it's being recorded. I can see stop. I want to be sure. Meeting recordings in progress. Okay, great. Okay, good. Now, friends, did you notice that what we just did now has installed something here? So if you click on Open Blue Ocean, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a different UI. So sometimes when you join some companies, they may not be using the interface you are familiar with. They may not be using this interface. Do you understand? They could be using a different UI, which is called some people use Blue Ocean, some people use other types of UI. Okay, so let's just see how this one works, and then I show you Jenkins files, and if we have time, then we will do the GitHub actions. So one of the things we've been able to establish is how to set up a simple CI/CD for a project. So we did the same thing. So what I'm going to give us a task, right? And I'm sure we'll be able to do it. I'm sure. So these files here, it could be any kind of code, right? It could be any kind of code. It could be JavaScript, it could be HTML, CSS, it could be PHP, whichever way. You can still be able to work with it. Okay. Now this is taking longer time. Any questions so far? Can you all still hear me? Any question?
Oh, would they want to try the GitHub action maybe themselves? I don't know. Maybe they want to
Okay,
try.
I think that's what
Maybe they want to
that's what we'll do. So that we don't stay longer on the
yeah, so don't overwhelm them. So I think what we can just do is maybe look for a video that explains GitHub actions, then they just work with that. So I don't know, maybe they can work in groups. I mean, they could probably we are like 14 left, yeah. So maybe we can just work
My
collective. Maybe
problem,
people can
the
just work
struggle I'm
together.
having there now is I don't know how many persons are complete beginners, or when we ask questions like who is a complete beginner and who has some experience, everybody will say they are complete beginners. So when we start the class, it start becoming too simple for some persons. You get
Yeah,
so
I
that's the
guess. So
challenge
they
we're having
just
now. So I
switch
don't
on, yeah.
know if what I'm doing is too elementary or if I should move into the complex ones. That's the struggle I've been having within the
So
class.
so I don't know. Can you quickly have that? Okay, so someone just put my signal. I'm a complete beginner.
Okay, Oliver says, I don't know if it's a he or a her, but okay. So that's the one of the concerns that we have. If you notice, a lot of persons joined the call, and then a while later they left. You understand? Okay, a he, Maximilian. Okay, that's fine. Welcome, sir. So, okay, no problem. Let me just wrap up and just do the Jenkins file. Or, you know what, let's just stop here for today so that I don't overwhelm anybody. It will just send an extra video. I have a comprehensive video that can just touch a little bit on Jenkins and maybe some sites that I didn't cover, but for the most part, this is just how to use Jenkins. So there are a lot of things I would have explained, but the time is too short to cover all those things. Sorry, Obonna, I don't understand what you said. What do you mean, please? Do you want to unmute yourself? Can we all unmute ourselves so that we can get your individual feedbacks and know what to do to improve the learning and maximize our time? Because if you're on this call and you're not following, I'm sure your data is going, and it will be a worthwhile investment if you're contributing and you're understanding and also enjoying the learning. You understand? So any questions so far? Do you feel like you've known this part and we should move into other complex things, or is this enough so far?
All right. So, good evening, everyone. I don't know. Am I
Hi,
audible?
Obana. Yes, you
Hello.
are. I can hear you.
Okay. So, it's not really a complaint or a question. It's more like a. So far, this has been good. This has been educative, and in as much as we are on different levels, that cannot be avoided. Some are going to be more further ahead, and some are not going to be So I think this is a good start so far. But then if you have, I think we can start from here, then slowly move up to more, I wouldn't say more complex, but more, a little bit more scenario based, like in an actual production environment. For those of us that are maybe actually in the field already, we can, this is just my opinion anyway, but so far I think this has been good. And even the things you think you're going to learn something new about it. That's the thing about always starting from the beginning most of the time. So that's my 2 cents. And thank you very
Okay,
much.
that's a good one. Thank you so much, Uganda. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the challenges for trainers like us is this, right? You may want to if you may want to do the industry stuff or production stuff, and then you are imagining the learning curve, right? You could be saying some complex things and the person on the call is just wondering and trying to connect the dots, you understand, and not sure what you are saying or what you are doing because it's too high, right? So that's the challenge I usually have. Except maybe what we'll just do is this, maybe going forward, right? I think I'll be consistent with sharing a video, right, that will cover the basics, so that when we go to what is it called, project based, like a particular use case, we'll just solve a particular problem and just implement, rather than just touching around what is this, what is that, and explaining how it works. We'll just go into deploying a simple project and so on, so that we understand that this is what we want to achieve and this is the particular results. I think that's just what we'll do. So, but which means if so far from what we have on our outline, what we have next is on Ansible, right? Yeah. So we've been able to understand what is it called? We've done everything that has to do with Docker and we've done CI/CD now, right? So the next class is supposed to be on Ansible, right? So maybe in the first phase of the class, we'll touch a little bit on Ansible. Then we'll now do a project that is going to be integrating Ansible and Jenkins. So a real world scenario whereby we want to do a deployment and then we are using Ansible and Jenkins together. So it's for anybody that's on the call, if you do not understand Jenkins, it's better the person has to use the week to prepare and understand what we've covered so far and understand some little things on Ansible. In fact, I'll even find it more interesting if I go more complex things and you all ask me questions, and let it be that I'm struggling to explain it, or we're solving real world use cases. You understand? So I think maybe that's the best part we'll go. Please, if there's anybody that's a complete beginner as well and feels like that approach may be too difficult for him, please let us know. Okay, we are not really after the number. Remember that this training is free, right? So it's not something some people paid for, and because it's free, so we're not really after the number. Even if it's only 5 or 10%, at least they understand what we've done end to end. We can confidently say, okay, out of for the past 5-10 weeks, this is what we covered, and those that went through the program, they understood these things. Okay, so anybody wants to say anything before we wrap it up for today?
Thanks, Achieva. Like the point you raised was very valid. Today's topic was quite wholesome. I know it might look like we touched around, but I think sometimes it helps to give that better view when you approach it from up down, then you circle in. Then you have the project done. Secondly, I wanted to ask if concerning the video you want to be sent, like if you could just send maybe like 2 days earlier, it helps to go through, marinate it, and like much more easier than when we get it that day. For most of us that just new entrants.
Thank you so much. I'll just send it on Monday. I'll try to keep it Monday, Tuesday. Much more earlier, Monday, Tuesday, right? Ahead of the week.
Okay.
If you don't even get it Sunday, you'll get it Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Then lastly, actually the video I'm talking about is the one usually sent for us like watch and like for the topic we're gonna discuss, right?
Prior to the class, right? Yes, I get you.
Exactly.
I get you.
Then I wanted
That
to
makes
ask, like,
sense.
bit random, but like documentation, like now, this project we're doing now, what are your thoughts on it? Like, um, so I've heard that it's a very like it's good practice to just be like more like just be writing it down, then you know, then
Okay,
eventually when
documentation is something that's very, very key. Go ahead. Go
so
ahead. Let me just
okay, so I
go
just wanted
ahead.
to know where your stance is because I've heard of like people are, I just wanted to know how much of a good practice is it, because I think these are, we're just trying to get our foot into the industry, right? So I don't know how, like, just any like guides per se, like what would you advise if you were in our shoes, quote unquote, what would you do, with this project? Because I know we've done, I think 4 Docker Compose. I think 4, yeah, 3, 4 so far now. So I just want to know, is this something that we should take quite serious, or it's as we please? Just your thoughts,
Okay.
please.
The thing is this documentation is very, very key. It communicates a lot of things. One is this it tells people it's doing 2 things. One, it's helping you to learn how to improve your technical writing, right? Because that's literally what it is, right? There's some people that the documentation they create, they just use different platforms. For instance, they on the company where I work, where we train people, Dari.io, if you see here, this is a project that somebody did, right? And you can literally see the clear documentation, right? So without me talking to the person, I can literally see how the person is implementing this particular project. You understand? It's a robust project that the person did. You understand? Using PHP, SonarQube, and the rest of them, and Ansible and PHP to do a lot of things. Do you understand? Now, it's very interesting. Now, if I'm a recruiter, just looking at the documentation, I get to know the person's thought process and know if this person is as technical and competent as he claims. That's one. It gives me perspective to know how shallow the person is, right? 2. Now, I've already said 1, it helps you to be a technical writer, and you will agree with me. There are a lot of people that make money out of technical writing, right? Because there are some people, some organizations, they just need people who can write, who can document, right? Good. Secondly, it also helps the recruiter to know the projects you've worked on, not a verbal thing where you claim that you're a DevOps engineer, you know this, you know that, you know this, you understand. Can we see projects you've worked on? Can we see the documentation of the projects you've worked on? You get. No matter how simple it is, how how you document matters a lot. It also tells us that if we're employing you for a senior role, you will be able to document your learnings for junior people to pick up and learn. You understand? So it's one of the things that helps our organization to stand out, unless especially for people who were going out for interviews. You understand? It helped them to retain the information. You understand? Because there's no way when you will be doing all this documentation, you will not be remembering or retaining all the practical steps you did in implementing the project. You understand? And few years down the line, or maybe few months after, if you revisit this project, just looking at the documentation, you will be able to connect the dots because you were the one that did it. But if you left the project, if you finished doing the project, and trust me, if you did something on Kubernetes and left it for 4 months and you didn't touch anything in that area, you will forget it. I can literally tell you that. That's how it is, even with coding. But with documentation, it helps you to retain the information. There are a lot of benefits. Okay. So it's one of the things that helps people to stand out. And I encourage you to, yes, please continue documenting. In fact, that's one of the things I wanted you all to be doing in this program. So no matter how little the project is, just document with screenshots and everything. Some of you that don't know what to use in screenshotting, you can use GreenShot. So there's a lot of tools. You can use snipping tool, or you can use GreenShot. Okay, it's a tool on Windows computer. I think it works on Mac too. GreenShot. Once you use it, you can take screenshots and just document your learning, okay? No matter how simple it is, you get. I hope that answers your question. or your points.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, friends. So we're going to stop here for today. And sorry for taking your time. We spent so much time today, almost 3 hours. So let's stop the recording so that it's not too lengthy and overwhelming for anybody that wants to watch later. So if you have any further question in the course of the week, I'm going to try to give you a task, and let's see how many persons will be able to attempt it.